Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? Hope everybody is doing amazingly well. Welcome back to another lesson of English with Ashish. And guys, today in this lesson we are going to master compound complex sentences. So we are going to learn what compound complex sentences are, how to form them, how to identify them, and everything about them. So make sure you watch the lesson until the end. It's going to be fun, it's going to be informative, it's going to step up your English. So I'm excited. I know you guys are too. Let's do it. Alright everybody, let's start with the definition. So a compound complex sentence is a combination of at least two independent and one dependent clause. So it's a combination, it's an amalgamation of two independent clauses and at least two independent clause and at least one dependent clause. Alright, it has the features of both a compound sentence, that is why it has the name compound in it, and the features of a complex sentence, and that is why it has the word complex in it, right? And that's why it is called a compound complex sentence, right? Because it has the features of both a compound sentence and a complex sentence. Simple, right? So a compound complex sentence is a combination and amalgamation of what? At least two independent clauses and one dependent clause. At least two independent clauses and one dependent clause. All right. So this is what the definition is. You've got to understand this, that it has at least two dependent clauses and one dependent clause. Now, let's look at some examples and understand how they look like. Alright, let's look at example number 1. We sometimes get lost in the process and feel that nothing is working, but it is important not to lose hope and keep doing what got us so far. Okay, so let's identify all the clauses we have here, right, and see whether it is a compound complex sentence. Okay, so we sometimes get lost in the process and feel that nothing is working. That's one clause, right? That's clause number 1, and it has a compound predicate. So we is the subject here, sometimes it verb. We do what? Get lost in the process, predicate number 1, right? Let's call it P1, right? And feel that nothing is working. This is our predicate number 2. Okay. Now, if you see here in the second predicate, that nothing is working is a clause, is a dependent clause working as the object of the verb feel. We sometimes get lost in the process and feel that nothing is working. That is this entire thing is our clause number 1, independent clause. Okay. We sometimes get lost in the process and feel that nothing is working. But within this clause, within this independent clause, we have a dependent clause. We have this dependent clause that nothing is working. That, let's write it down, that nothing is working. This is our first dependent clause, or maybe the only dependent clause, we'll find that soon, that nothing is working, which is working as the object of the verb feel. Feel what? That nothing is working, right? So far we have an independent clause, and within that independent clause we have a dependent clause. So 2 clauses so far. But we sometimes get lost in the process and feel that nothing is working, comma, but it is important not to lose hope and keep doing what got us so far. This is a coordinating conjunction, right? It is important not to lose hope and keep doing what got us so far. This is another clause, and it is independent clause, complete sentence, right? So this is my second independent clause, right? First independent clause, second independent clause, and this is a dependent clause, right? So it makes it having 2 independent clauses and 1 dependent clause makes it a compound complex sentence, right? Makes sense? But that's not it. In this last clause, last independent clause, we probably have another dependent clause. Let's break it down. So let's clean everything first, all right, and then break it down. So it is important not to lose hope and keep doing what got us so far. what got us so far. So this is another dependent clause. Let's call it DC2, second dependent clause after this one, right? One, two, which is again working as the object of the verb doing. Doing what? What got us so far, right? So here we have two independent clauses and two dependent clauses. And guys, a dependent clause in a sentence either works as a noun or an adjective or an adverb. So when it works as a noun, it's gonna be an essential part of the sentence, right? So if I take this out, right, or if I take this piece of information out, does the sentence make a lot of sense? No, it doesn't. We sometimes get lost in the process and feel what? If I don't mention the object of the verb feel, it looks incomplete, right? So the dependent clause here is a part of the independent clause, right? Working as the object of the verb feel, right? Object of the verb of the independent clause. And the same thing is with the second independent clause. Here, what got us so far, which is a dependent clause, is again working as the object of the verb doing. Keep doing. If I read it without the object, it looks incomplete. Let's do it. But it is important not to lose hope and keep doing. Keep doing what? I mean, we've got to do something, right? Keep doing what got us so far. Okay, so that's a compound complex sentence, right? Okay, let's move to the next example. Let's keep doing it. The guy who is sitting next to John has amazing communication skills and he can definitely help us get better. So we have two clauses here, right? And these clauses are joined with a conjunction and a coordinating conjunction. So we clearly have two independent clauses. So we clearly have a compound sentence. But is it just compound or compound complex? Does it also have a dependent clause in it? Let's find it out. So let's break down the first clause. The guy who is sitting next to John has amazing communication skills. So what is my subject? The guy? No, the guy who is sitting next to John is my subject. This guy has amazing communication skills. Which guy? The guy who is sitting. Who is sitting next to John? This is a dependent clause. Can you see that? Who is sitting next to John? This is a dependent clause starting with the subordinating conjunction working as the subject of this clause. Who is sitting next to John? Identifying the noun guy and giving information about it, working as an adjective. The guy, which guy? Who is sitting next to John, has amazing communication skills. So again, this is an independent clause, and here the subject has a dependent clause in it as a modifier, as an adjective, right? So who is sitting next to John is a dependent clause which is working as an adjective, a part of the subject, a post modifier, okay? And he can definitely help us get better. That is just an independent clause. It doesn't have a dependent clause in it, and we don't have anything after that. So we have two dependent clauses, one, second, and we have a dependent clause in one of the independent clauses. Got it? And that's a compound complex sentence. Let's move to the next one. I really don't care if you don't like me, for I don't spend my energy on things that I can't control. So let's find out whether it is a compound complex sentence. I really don't care. That's an independent clause, right? I really don't care. Care. If you don't like me. So it's a conditional sentence, right? I really don't care if you don't like me. So this is my independent clause. IC, first one, let's call it IC1. And this is my dependent clause. And this is the first one, right? I really don't care in what case, in what condition, if you don't like me. And if is the subordinating conjunction. And that's how you identify a dependent clause, because it starts with a subordinating conjunction and independent clauses don't. Okay, and dependent clauses don't give a complete meaning on their own. Okay, so I really don't care in what case, if you don't like me, for, which is a coordinating conjunction that indicates there's going to be an independent clause ahead. For, I don't spend my energy on things that I can't control. That's an independent clause, right? I don't spend my energy on things that I can't control. But does it have a dependent clause in it? Yes, it does, which is that I can't control. I don't spend my energy on things that I can't control, not don't, which is independent clause 2. Okay. Wherein I have a dependent clause which is working as an adjective, modifying the noun things. Okay. I've told you a dependent clause works either as a noun or an adjective or an adverb. So here it is working as an adverb, okay, working as a condition. Here it is working as an adjective giving information about the noun things. I don't spend my energy on things. What kind of things? Things that I can't control. So we have two independent clauses and two dependent clauses, and we have a compound complex sentence, right? It has the features of both. A compound sentence, which is a combination of two or more independent clauses, and a complex sentence, which is a combination of um, at least one dependent clause and one independent clause. And there you have a compound complex sentence, right? So the minimum number of clauses that you need in a compound complex sentence is three. Is three. This is something you guys have to understand. Let's remove it first, right? The minimum number of clauses you need in a compound complex sentence is three, which is two independent clause and one dependent clause. Got it? But you can have as many clauses as you want in it. As many clauses as you want. Let's take an example and see how it is possible, because I just said that, but does it actually make sense? Yes, it does. So let's create a sentence together and see that it can have a lot of clauses in it. Okay, so let's do it. I and my friend who has come from Pune. I and my friend who has come from Pune uh, want someone want someone who so the pen is not working, really sorry for that, who has amazing amazing, okay, amazing coding skills, who has amazing coding skills. I and my friend who has come from Pune want someone who has amazing coding skills because because the project because the project that we were which is we are we're working on. Really sorry about the pen, guys, so please listen to what I'm saying, not look at what's being written here. So the project that we are working on requires the project really sorry requires the project that we're working on requires great coding skills. Okay, so let's read it so far. We can continue this. I and my friend who has come from Pune want someone who has amazing coding skills. Right. First clause. Why? Because the project that we are working on requires great coding skills. So I and my friend, which friend who has come from Pune, first independent clause, sorry, dependent clause, want someone who has amazing coding skills. So first DC, dependent clause, second DC, right? Because this is the third dependent clause. I and my friend who has come from Pune want someone who has amazing coding skills. Why? Because the project that we're working on requires great coding skills. So this is third dependent clause starting with because. And so you want this. I and my friend who has come from Pune want someone who has amazing coding skills because the project that we're working on requires great coding skills. And um, we also we also need a person we also need a person who can who can do the marketing of the project. Okay, so you get the point what I'm saying, right? Marketing of the project. So I've added another independent clause to it, and we also need a person who can do the marketing. So second independent clause, right? And it has another dependent clause in it, which is who can do the marketing, working as an adjective, modifying the noun person. So I've used four dependent clauses here and two independent clauses, sorry, two independent clauses. I can keep doing this. I can keep adding clauses to it. So I did that just to show you guys that you can have as many clauses, dependent and independent, as you want in a compound complex sentence. Okay. Now, let's understand how to use commas in a compound complex sentence. Do we have to use a comma? If we do, where do we use it? How many commas can we use? There is always at least one comma in a compound complex sentence. At least one comma in a compound complex sentence, as we use a comma before the second independent clause. But we can have more commas in it too as well. So we need at least one comma that is before the second independent clause, because two independent clauses are joined together with a coordinating conjunction, and we use a comma before the conjunction. That means we are going to use at least one comma that is before the second conjunction, before the coordinating conjunction. That's clear, right? But we can have more commas in it too. We can have a non-essential piece of information in the sentence, and we can offset that piece of information using commas, right? And if you start a sentence, a compound complex sentence with a dependent clause, in that case you're going to use a comma to offset that sentence as well, to offset that clause as well. My bad, not a sentence. All right. Let me give you an example. We know what we need to do and we are going to do it. So see, this is the first independent clause. There is a dependent clause in it, and this is the second independent clause, right? And you see a comma before it because there is a coordinating conjunction, right? um, but if you start a sentence with a dependent clause, you're going to use a comma right after it. If you are not available for the project, comma, right, we will talk to someone else for. So this is the first independent clause, right, and this is the second independent clause, right, and this is the coordinating conjunction, and we have to use a comma before the coordinating conjunction. Now you can have more commas in it if you want to. How can you do that? Of course, by adding more information to the sentence, by adding more clauses to it, but you can also add non-essential pieces of information to the sentence. And when you do, you have to use commas to offset these pieces of information. So if you are not available for the project, we not out of heart, comma, we comma not out of hurt will talk to someone else. Okay, for the project has to be done with the deadline. So I've just added a piece of information which is non-essential to the sentence, and I had to use commas to offset it. Okay, if you are not available for the project, we not out of heart will talk to someone else, for the project has to be done within the deadline. You can also start a sentence with an adverbial, an introductory adverb. In that case, you're going to use a comma after it. If you are not available for the project. um, let's say, unfortunately, unfortunately, comma, if you're not available for the project, right? So I've used an introductory adverb in the beginning, and that is why I used a comma after. So you need at least one comma in a compound complex sentence, but you can have many commas in it. How? I've just shown you. So this is what a compound complex sentence is, guys. You know how it looks like, you know what it has in it, and all the other things about it. You can visit my website, right? It has a lot of examples, a lot of information about compound complex sentences, and that's going to be enough. That's going to be enough for you to understand everything about compound complex sentences, right? So make sure you pay a visit to the website as well. And if you have any question, any doubt, any query, do let me know in the comment section below. I will answer all your questions, and I'll see you guys very soon. Till then, keep learning, have fun. I'm out. Bye.